everybody, my name is Emma, this is Emma Rose and Books. As you can see from the title, today I'm going to talk about my 5 top tips about breastfeeding. Now you may wonder why on a channel devoted to books, especially if you're new to the channel, I'm talking about my breastfeeding tips. And the reason is the book that I wrote, which is called Milk, is all about my experiences of breastfeeding my 3 children and everything I learned along the way. So given that that's my area of interest, I just thought it would be a really nice thing to write the 5 things that I just think will help you get through your breastfeeding experience and make it as wonderful as it possibly can be. So I had a little think about if there were 5 things, pinpointed it down, and that's what I'm going to share with you today. Coincidentally, links are below. So number 1 of my 5 tips is get information. So this is important whatever stage you're at. If you are pregnant, then it's really important to get as much information as you can about how breastfeeding works, what to expect, where to find, information and support and so forth, just so that you're ready and tooled up. And then that means that when you encounter various things, you have that grounding in what you think, how breastfeeding works. That means if something doesn't seem quite right, you're actually responding to that from a knowledgeable place. Also, if you are somebody who's breastfeeding a baby or an older child, then if you're coming to a point where perhaps you're facing an issue or there's something you don't quite understand, or just that you're really fascinated about breastfeeding and you want to find out more, information is a really good way to go. So there are a few places you can get information from. Number 1, this is a books channel, so there are a few really great books. I have made a video before about my 5 favourite breastfeeding books, although I have one more to add to the list, which I've done an individual review about, which is the Positive breastfeeding book that I'd recommend. Let me turn to my breastfeeding section of my bookcase. Firstly, this book is really good, links are below. Now, the Positive breastfeeding book, like I said, I'll link the review I did of this, but this is a very good kind of goes through everything that you might want to know. The Womanly Art of Breastfeeding, also really good for a similar kind of thing. And then if you're at a point where you want to go into more detail, then the kind of books I'd go for are Breastfeeding Uncovered, Unlatched is good, I'll link all these below, and The Politics of Breastfeeding. They're all really good. Another one you can go for is if you're not a massive reader and you just want little snapshots. I don't have the Why Breastfeeding Matters books, but it's in this series, the Why It Matters series. Anything in this is really good, and as you can see, they're tiny, quick reads. Basically, anything published by Pinter and Martin is usually a good way to go. If you look up that publishers, their books are all really good. The next place I would go to is the internet. Now, as with anything on the internet, information can be iffy, so be careful about what sites you look at. Often, your instincts are going to be right. If they're sites that are recommended by other people within the breastfeeding community, it's probably going to be good. Particular favourites for me are Kelly Mom, which I'll link below, is absolutely brilliant. She's a lactation consultant and she's got tons and tons of amazing stuff on her website. And if you're looking for information about what medications you can take when you're breastfeeding, the Breastfeeding Network's medications page is really good, and I'll link that below too. Finally, the last sort of information is if you're lucky enough in your area this is for pregnant mums, if there's antenatal breastfeeding classes or breastfeeding workshops run by maybe a volunteer organisation or maybe run by your health professionals, then go along to it, give it a go. It's just really good to talk to people, get to know people who work within that community and find out what information they have to offer. I would just thoroughly recommend just making sure you know as much as possible. It just helps you to understand what's going on with your body, with your life, with your baby. And of course, if you're already breastfeeding, then you could ask your health visitor, your midwife, a friend who's really knowledgeable about breastfeeding, or maybe go to a group or talk to a lactation consultant. They're always fantastic, and you can usually find lists of what lactation consultants work where. So depending on what it is that you want, you can turn to an individual. There's people within the breastfeeding community in your area who would be able to supply you or point you in the right direction of information that will help you at any stage that you're at. Number 2 is support. Support is just so important, and because of disruption of the extended family and the fact that breastfeeding isn't generally that common, with the support that we would naturally receive within our families, where, you know, your mum would have breastfed you, so you can ask her, and your sisters would have breastfed, and your best friend would have breastfed, and your aunts and whoever, that for a lot of families doesn't exist. If it does in your family and in your friendship groups, if you know lots of people who breastfeed, you may not need to seek any additional support, and that's fantastic, because that's really what we want, you know, is for our communities to have lots and lots of people who you can turn to and just go to a friend. But if your family doesn't have lots of people who've breastfed, even if people are really supportive of your decision to do that, but people just don't have maybe the experience and the knowledge, then you may need to look for support elsewhere. This is, again, for mothers of any age of baby. If you feel like you need some love around you, then go and seek it out. And if you're a pregnant mum, then go and meet the people that provide support, so that when you've got to go along and maybe get your boobs out in front of people you've never met, it feels a bit less weird. But it's really good to go to like a breastfeeding group or whatever, and find out that information as well. So if you're not going for friends and family, there are a few places where you can go to get support. Number 1 are charity organisations. So Leche League, the Breastfeeding Network, the Association of Breastfeeding Mothers, the NCT. Leche League, by the way, there's the American one, and then the UK one is like a branch of it. But anyway, you can find all the information online. But all of these organisations have breastfeeding groups, some of them have forums and things like that. But you can go along and meet other mums, chat to each other about what's going on with babies of different ages, and quite often there'll be peer supporters, or there might be breastfeeding counsellors and things like that, that if you've got a slightly more complicated question, you can ask them. And they're generally mothers who have had a few babies, or one baby and breastfed it for a little while, who you know, have that level of experience to be able to make sure that you're getting the best information and support. But just going along to that kind of group and feeling like people get you is so important. So, you know, if you feel that you need that, then go and seek them out. See if it's a group of people that you get on with and you feel comfortable with. And yeah, I mean, some of my best friends in the world are my breastfeeding support group. They are my soul tribe, my village, my go-to about everything, not just breastfeeding problems. So really it's the best, and go and find that. But for people, like when I first had my first baby, I didn't really want to talk to anyone, and there are other ways if that's not your thing. So a lot of these organisations also have web chat, which is awesome. That didn't exist when I had my eldest, otherwise I would have been all over that. But you know, if you're not really comfortable in phoning somebody or talking to somebody, you can just type to them, it's amazing. Or there's helplines. You can get in touch with these amazing women who give up their time for free to sit and answer questions, and no question is silly. If you feel like you really need an answer to a question, you're not going to get judged, you're not going to get laughed at, just give them a call, and you can get that support for whatever your issue is. There are a lot of social media groups that are really, really good if you want some online support. There are some that are private groups. You need to speak to kind of people in the breastfeeding community to find out if there are any that they know of. I'm a member of a couple. They're really good, and it means that obviously people can post things that are really personal without their friends and family seeing what they're posting. So those private groups are really good, but you do have to kind of ask around to find out how to get onto them. But there are more public groups where obviously you might not want to be posting personal things that people can see, but nonetheless you can still interact with people. Can I Breastfeed in it is a really good group, for example. So moving on to my third top tip, those first two are like the biggies, the really, really important, you know, get your information and support and the rest will come kind of thing. But there are 3 more that I think are important. So number 3, I've put to be kind to yourself. Whether you've just had a baby and everything's kind of all in flux and overwhelming, or whether you've been a mum for a while but you're maybe just feeling a bit touched out or fed up or unenthused or whatever it is, I think you just need to be really kind to yourself. In the old days, when a woman had a baby, she would be expected to just lie in bed basically for like 6 weeks and everyone to do everything for her. But that doesn't really happen anymore because we don't have people to deal with everything else in your life because we don't live in big communities like that anymore. So if you can, when your baby's really small, if you want to spend all day in your pyjamas, if you want to spend all day in bed, go for it. Be kind to yourself. You have the best excuse in the world. And if you've got an older baby and you're just feeling a bit, just like I said, just not feeling it, then take that self-care time. I mean, it's true of anything, not just having babies, but if you feel like you just need some time to yourself, that absolutely, that's not laziness. It might feel like you're being lazy, but you're really not. And invest that time in yourself, whether it be spending the day in bed, whether it just be having a nice cup of coffee, going out to a coffee shop, whether it be, you just want to watch a film. Figure it out, see if somebody can have the baby for half hour while you just take a few, or even if it might just be having a nice bath with a new bath bomb, or God knows, but whatever makes you feel good and relaxed, and just take that time for yourself, because being a mum of a young child is hard, whether you're breastfeeding or not, and being a breastfeeding mum means that an awful lot of the responsibility falls on you for caring for that baby because you're providing their nutrition physically. So, just take care of yourself, and if that means that other things have to slide, so be it. Number 4, don't set a time limit. The World Health Organization recommend that you breastfeed exclusively for 6 months, so that's giving nothing else but breast milk, and then that you feed for 2 years and beyond whilst they have other foods and drinks. And I think it's easy to feel like there's a end point, like I have to reach that target, that you have to be like a statistic, and also I guess a certain competitiveness, or well, how long did you breastfeed for? Oh, I breastfed for a day, a week, a month, a year, or and it's not a competition, and it's not a goal that you have to reach. And I think that if you're looking at this kind of rolling on of years when you could be breastfeeding, I mean, in my life so far I've got 3 children, I've breastfed for a sum total of for probably about 5 years, and if you'd have told me that when I had my first, that would have just seemed horrendous, but it's gone like that. and so I think there's no point in kind of saying, right, I'm going to feed for this long, and then also feeling like you're beholden to that. So if you don't really want to, feeling that kind of tension, there's just no point. There's no point in the competition, the anxiety, the worry, just don't bother with it. I think really you should take it a feed at a time. You just say, I'm breastfeeding today. If someone says, how long are you going to feed for? Say, I don't know, I'm feeding today. I have yet to breastfeed a baby to 2 years, because for me and my children hasn't worked out that way. My youngest is 19 months old. She's winding up. I don't think she's going to make 2 years because she's just losing interest. That's us, that's our family, that's the way it's worked. If I was anxiously trying to get to 2 years, then I'd feel very differently, whereas now I just feel maybe a little bit sad that I'm not going to have any more babies, and this is my last time experiencing that relationship, that breastfeeding relationship. But it takes the pressure off, and whether you breastfeed your baby for one feed or one day or for years and years and years, it just depends on you and your baby, on your relationship together and your family circumstances and all of those things. It's got nothing to do with anyone else, what anybody else thinks, or a goal that you set. Just breastfeed for today, and see how you go. And I really, really think that that's important. Just don't set yourself up for just feeling like you're pushing yourself. It's just a physical relationship that you have with your baby. And although, yes, of course, from a statistical point of view, the reason those figures are there is because, those are goals that we want people to get to. But the way to get to it is not by, on an individual level, feeling pressured to reach it. It's by just feeling supported and loved and cared for, and doing what feels right for you and your family. So yeah, don't set yourself a goal, just breastfeed for today. Number 5 is to trust your instincts. A mother's instincts have a lot to be said for them, to the point where a doctor will take it seriously often if a mother says, something is not right. Because even if a mother might not be able to put their finger on it, there is something that she has picked up on that has changed and that she's not happy about. A mother's instinct really does have a lot to be said for it, because you spend so much time either with that pregnancy or with that child, that baby, that intricate dance between the two of you is very nuanced and very responsive. So anyway, if you in your breastfeeding relationship at any point think something isn't right and I want to just check or ask somebody, then do. And equally, if somebody gives you a piece of information or advice or says something and something in your brain goes, it's not right, trust that and pursue that. Equally, if your instincts are telling you that what you were doing is right and wonderful, then I think go with it. I think mothers' instincts are generally really something quite special. So trust what your body and your instincts are telling you, and don't kind of over-intellectualise things. Just if you think everything's going well, then great, and if something's not quite right, then seek some support. I hope that you found those 5 tips useful, and like I said, I'll link the things below that I've talked about. If you have any personal tips or information or anything like that you would like to share with other people, then please leave them in the comments below and have a little chat. Please like if you did like that video, and please subscribe if you would like to see more videos about reading books and writing books. I appreciate this one was a little out of the ordinary, but like I said, it makes sense given the context of what my book's about. Anyway, I will see you all for my next one. I hope you have a lovely week. Bye!